One thing I want to talk about in regards to Shiny Happy People, the documentary on the Duggar family and the whole leaving toxic religion, particularly Christianity in general, is the ways in which when you're leaving that, you can be both victim and oppressor. Meaning, it's important to acknowledge that those who grow up in environments like that are victims. They were put in a religious system, especially when they were born into it, that they had no choice but to follow until they got older and were able to start leaving it. But the reality is that even as they leave, they can still hold on to theological ideas that oppress others. And that one can recognize that they're still a victim and also hold them accountable for the theology that they're using to perpetrate abuse to other marginalized groups. So, for instance, if you go from IBLP to a church that's less extreme, but that still has a pastor that says homophobic, transphobic, racist, and sexist things, I think it's okay for people who are in the receiving end of that horrible theology to point that out to you. But what I'm seeing in a lot of predominantly white deconstruction spaces is this inability to have a discussion about how one can be both a victim and an oppressor, and that one's experience of being a victim doesn't negate the harm that you are causing further marginalized groups. I'm all for healing, and that does take a long time. But that healing should not come on the backs of Black and brown people and queer people. Not when our lives are frequently at risk. So yes, let's talk about the trauma from leaving toxic religion and how long a healing process that can be. But also, it's okay if people who are from further marginalized groups point out that in that healing, they're being harmed. I think part of the reason that it's difficult for people to hold on to both of those realities is that as a society, our notions of accountability are skewed. We tend to go from one extreme to another. So, nope, no need to hold anyone accountable to, oh, we're going to just destroy this person's life and harass them and bully them on social media. And I think that that doesn't have to be the case. You can make space for people who are leaving toxic religion, who are healing, and still being like, hey, these theological beliefs that you're holding on to, and you may have a good reason for holding on to them, like comfort, security, actually harm people. Too often in white deconstruction spaces, that ability to have that nuanced conversation is non-existent, and it harms queer people and Black and brown people.